Hello my friends, I hope you're keeping well and warm wherever you are. Today I've got something really important to share with you, and I mean really important, because it could affect not only your wallet, but also your peace of mind this coming winter. We're talking about the winter fuel payment for 2025, and the big news is that the DWP has just revealed new age rules. That means not everyone who used to get it automatically will qualify anymore. Yes, you heard that right, things are changing, and if you're not careful, you could miss out. Now, I know for many of us, the winter fuel payment isn't just a little bonus. It's something we count on to help cover those rising heating bills. When the nights get colder and darker, and we're using the heating more often, that payment can make all the difference between worrying about the meter and simply enjoying a warm, comfortable home. So if the rules are changing, we absolutely need to understand who's still entitled and what action needs to be taken. Let me be clear. The government has confirmed that the age limit for receiving the payment is shifting in 2025. This means some pensioners who thought they were safe may now need to double-check their eligibility. And if you don't, there's a real risk you could lose out on money that you should be getting. I don't want that to happen to you, or to anyone watching this. That's why I'm here, to break it all down in plain, simple language, without the confusing jargon. Because here's the thing. The DWP isn't exactly known for making things crystal clear. They'll issue a statement full of official terms, and many people are left scratching their heads, unsure if it applies to them or not. But today, we're going to cut through that confusion. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly what the new age rules mean, whether you're still eligible, and what you need to do to make sure your payment comes through. And let me say this, even if you think you're too young or too old to be affected, stick around. Sometimes the rules affect your partner, or they might kick in for you sooner than expected. Plus, I'll also share a few tips about what to do if you think you've been unfairly excluded. This isn't just about the payment itself. It's about making sure you get what you've earned after all your years of hard work. So, before we dive deeper, I want to ask you a little favor. If you find videos like this helpful, ones that keep you up to date with pensions, benefits, and payments that matter to you, then please go ahead and give this video a like. It helps more people like you find this information, and it tells me that you'd like me to keep making content that really matters. Alright, let's get started and take a closer look at the DWP's announcement about the Winter Fuel Payment 2025, and what these new age rules really mean for you. Alright then, let's dive in. The Department for Work and Pensions has confirmed changes to the Winter Fuel Payment for 2025, and the most important update is around the age requirement. Now, in the past, many of you will remember that as long as you had reached state pension age by a certain date, you were automatically eligible. It was simple. If you were over a certain age, you received the payment. But now, the government is moving the goalposts. From 2025, the age threshold is being raised. What this means in plain English is that some people who might have expected to receive the payment next winter will actually have to wait a little longer. The official explanation is that the age limit is being aligned more closely with changes in the state pension age. But the reality is simple. Some pensioners will lose out, and it could come as a nasty surprise if you don't check. Imagine this, you're planning ahead, you're looking at your household budget for the winter months, and you're thinking, well, I know I'll get the winter fuel payment that will cover the gas and electricity for a few weeks. And then suddenly, you find out that because of this new rule, you don't qualify anymore. That can throw your whole plan into disarray. And that's why we're talking about it now, before the cold months set in, so you know exactly where you stand. So how is this new rule actually going to work? Well, according to the DWP, to qualify for the 2025 payment, you'll need to have reached the new qualifying age, which is slightly higher than before. The age is going up in line with the changes to state pension eligibility. For some people, that could mean you need to be 67 before you qualify instead of 66. That might not sound like a big difference on paper, but for those who are just about to become eligible under the old system, it means waiting another year. And a year, especially when you're facing high heating costs, can feel like a very long time. Now, I don't want you to panic if you're unsure. Let's take a breath together here. Remember, the majority of older pensioners will still receive the payment automatically, just like before. If you're already well past the state pension age, this change won't take it away from you. But the group that needs to pay close attention is those who are approaching that age in 2025 and beyond. if you've been counting down the months until you qualify, you need to double-check whether this new rule pushes your eligibility back. And here's something else worth saying. The payment itself hasn't disappeared. It's not like the government is scrapping it altogether. The winter fuel payment is still very much alive, and for many pensioners, it will still land in your bank account as usual. The only difference is the age barrier has shifted. But the problem is, unless you're actively looking out for this information, you might miss it. And that's when people end up being disappointed, or worse, financially strained when they realize the money isn't coming. That's why I always encourage you to stay informed. I know it's not always easy keeping up with all these government announcements. They don't exactly send someone knocking on your door to explain it personally. That's why I make these videos, to put the information into plain language, so you don't have to sift through endless pages of official documents or confusing press releases. Now, let's talk about the actual amounts involved, because that's just as important. The winter fuel payment can range anywhere between £100 and £300, depending on your circumstances, things like your age, whether you live alone, or if someone else in your household is also eligible. For many households, it's not just a small amount, it's a significant bit of support during the coldest time of year. Missing out on that can mean the difference between comfortably heating your home or having to cut corners elsewhere. And I think we can all agree, after working and contributing for so many years, nobody should have to choose between staying warm and putting food on the table. Some of you might be thinking, well, I'll just wait until they send me a letter. And yes, in most cases, if you've received the payment before, you'll continue to get it automatically if you're still eligible. But here's the catch. If you've never claimed it before, or if your circumstances have changed, you might need to actively make a claim. That's where a lot of people slip through the cracks. They assume the money will arrive, and then by the time they realize it hasn't, the window for claiming has closed. So my advice is simple. Don't assume, check. Checking your eligibility doesn't need to be complicated. You can do it online. You can call the helpline, or if you're not comfortable with that, ask a family member to help you. I know many of you prefer speaking to a real person rather than trying to navigate a website, and that's perfectly fine. The important thing is that you take that step, so you're not caught off guard when winter arrives. I want to pause here for a moment and say something from the heart. I know that for many of you watching, it feels frustrating when the rules keep changing. You've planned your retirement, you've budgeted carefully, and then along comes another announcement that shifts things around. It can feel like the rug is being pulled out from under you. I just want you to know, you're not alone in feeling that way. So many people are in the same boat, and it's perfectly normal to feel worried or even a bit angry about it. The good news is, being informed gives you power. Once you know the facts, you can take action and make sure you're not missing out. And speaking of action, let me just say, if you're finding this video helpful, do me a quick favor. Hit that like button down below. It doesn't cost you anything, but it really helps this channel reach more people like you who need this kind of information. And honestly, it tells me that you value these updates, which means I can keep making them for you. So go ahead and give it a little click. It only takes a second, and it makes a big difference. Now, let's continue. Another point I want to raise is how these changes could impact couples. For example, if you live with a partner who is older or younger than you, the rules can get a little bit more complicated. In some cases, if only one of you meets the age requirement, the payment might be reduced. Or, in certain circumstances, you might find that one of you has to claim on behalf of both. These little details are the ones that trip people up. And they're exactly why it's so important to double-check your personal situation instead of assuming that what happened last year will happen again this year. Something else worth mentioning is that the winter fuel payment is separate from other cold weather or energy-related support. Sometimes people confuse them, but they're not the same thing. The winter fuel payment is a one-off annual payment specifically for pensioners, while cold weather payments and other schemes depend on specific conditions, like very low temperatures. So even if you think, well, I didn't get that other payment, don't assume it applies to this one too. They're different pots of money with different rules. Looking ahead, there's also the question of whether the government might make further changes down the line. We can't predict the future, of course, but what we do know is that as the state pension age keeps creeping up, benefits like the winter fuel payment tend to shift alongside it. That's why my advice is always to stay prepared. Think of it like checking the weather forecast before going out. You may not always like what you hear, but it helps you plan and avoid surprises. And let's be real here, times are tough financially for many households. Energy prices might go up and down, but they never seem to go down enough, do they? And for pensioners living on a fixed income, every little bit helps. That's why these payments matter so much, and why I feel so strongly about making sure you know your rights. So, to sum up where we are so far, the DWP has confirmed that from 2025, the age threshold for winter fuel payment is going up. If you're already receiving it, you'll likely continue to get it. But if you're just reaching pension age around 2025, you need to double-check because you might not qualify as soon as you thought. And remember, in some cases you may need to actively claim, especially if it's your first time. I know it can feel like a lot to take in, but the bottom line is this. Don't wait, don't assume, and don't let yourself be caught off guard. Check your eligibility, make sure your details are up to date, and talk to someone if you're unsure. A simple phone call now could save you a lot of stress later. Alright my friends, that's the full picture on the winter fuel payment changes for 2025. I really hope this video has helped clear things up and given you the confidence to check your own situation. And once again, if you found this useful, please give the video a like. It's such an easy way to support the channel, and it helps make sure that important updates like this reach as many pensioners as possible. Thank you so much for spending this time with me today. Stay warm, stay well, and most importantly, stay informed. Until next time, take care of yourselves and each other.